Okay, so today I will be ranking the Minnesota Vikings quarterbacks from around 2010, 2009 till now. And I skipped a few quarterbacks, but there's just been so many that I think we have plenty of content to go over with just these in this list. Like I skipped Matt Castle and Joe Webb, I think his name was, because it was just brief appearances here and there. Um, and these are the most memorable, I would say, to say the least. So, Cousins, who's the current quarterback, I would put him at a B because on paper he's pretty good. Okay, yards, touchdowns, passer rating, he's decent. He's better than decent. He's good. But the clutch factor, it just isn't there yet. He, you know that when it's a game time decision, right? It's a game time moment. For the most part, he can't step up. There's been a few times, like, I think it was the Colts when they had the biggest comeback in NFL history. It's like 33 to 18 or 8. No, it wasn't 18. Somewhere around there. Anyways, maybe it was 33-0. Something ridiculous like that. Okay, he's been able to lead the Vikings in instances like that. But if it's a division rival like the Packers or the Bears and they're losing and it's just getting worse, you can't really rely on him for that to come back. It's almost like when the Vikings were playing the Bears, I think it was last season, and the Bears were making a comeback, and then they sabotaged themselves by fumbling, turning it over, and then making bad mistakes. You have to more rely on the other team to screw up, which the Lions do very well, and the Bears. Not really the Packers, though. The Packers are a lot more solid. So if it's a game against the Packers and there's a lot on the line and it's at Lambeau Field and it's Monday Night Football, I don't really trust Kirk to step up. I think it will come down more towards the defense and, running backs, wide receivers to step up for him, and then he can perform decent and then whatever. But when the pressure's on, he doesn't do the best. So that's why I have him at B, because he's definitely not A tier, definitely not S tier, but he's better than average. He's better than a C. So next up, okay, Brett Favre. So it's hard to put a Vikings quarterback at S tier when they've never won a Super Bowl. Any of these quarterbacks, with the Vikings at least, have never been to a Super Bowl. Not with the Vikings. But what Favre was able to do, and I'll get to this with Keenum as well, almost like a catalyst. The team had fire. They had energy. They had talent. But I think that the quarterback is more important than the coach in being a leader, in leading the players, and leading to them to have them excel. I think that the quarterback has more of a role in that. I mean, even though when a team doesn't do well, they fire the coach. They blame the coach. But at least with the Vikings, when a new quarterback comes in, it switches things up and gets the guys ready to play and motivates them, I think the quarterback has a bigger impact than a new coach. So, Favre. extremely talented with the Packers, was able to do so much, came to the Vikings, and then, in my opinion, they would have won the Super Bowl if it wasn't for the Bounty Bowl. He was doing great in the game against the Saints, but they were just getting paid a bonus to injure him. So, I mean, I don't see. You can't hold the fact that he didn't make it to the Super Bowl against him because it wasn't his fault. He did amazing. The entire season, he did amazing. The Vikings were amazing that season. And if it wasn't for that, I think they would have won. I don't think the Colts looked that good that Super Bowl. I don't think they did. And he was such a good leader. He was experienced. He knew how to handle pressure. He was, in the past, let's say, 2009, so 14 years, there has not been a better quarterback than Favre. There's been close. There's been close. Keenum, but you can't match what he did. You go back, you watch the old games, especially I think it was the Steelers when he threw past maybe Percy Harvin. I don't remember. In the end zone, back to the end zone. They came back. They won the game. The only other quarterback that I really saw that with was Keenum. A tier. Someone who also stepped up to the plate, led the team, and didn't panic under pressure. Keenum did a really good job. Made it almost to the end, just like Favre. But I would say that, okay, the game against the Saints, for the Vikings, when Favre was playing, it was a close game. It went into overtime. And it came down to that field goal kick by the Saints kicker. And this is before the rules had changed. And first point wins the game in overtime. Okay? And you watch Favre, and he's getting hit. He's getting just destroyed. And he still is managing to, keep a good head on him and, perform. Keenum, he was really good. I think against the Eagles, he was really good at the start of the game. I think they got the first touchdown, or maybe they didn't. But after that, I mean, the quarterback is the leader. The quarterback's the leader. He did so good. Minneapolis Miracle. Most memorable play of my lifetime in football, at least. The irony being that it was against the Saints. And he was just so good, but I can go on and on, but really the thing is, he was not clutch enough. He was not clutch enough to be S tier. He did a great job. He stepped up. He was a good leader, but when the time came, I would place a fair amount of blame on Keenum. He's the core of the team and the motivator. I guess the coaches too, but the players look up to him. And I mean, the Vikings defense will always let me down, always, regardless. But I think he could have done better that game, and he was very good, but he was not as good as Favre. Okay, so the absolute worst is this man right here, Christian Ponder. Wow, what a time. What a time to be a Vikings fan when you're watching him on the TV. He was awful. So the thing that was so distinct about Ponder, watching him on TV, was not only was he bad, right? Not only was he bad at throwing passes, scrambling, just everything that a quarterback needs to be good, he was awful at. So not only that, but the thing is with him is he was so easy to scare. The slightest pressure from a defensive end, whatever, running towards him would send him into a panic, and he wouldn't just throw it out of bounds, whatever. He would throw it down the middle of the field. So, if I was a gambling man, right, and there was game time bets, whatever, and let's say the Vikings were down 3 points, fourth quarter, minute left, and they're on their own 20, I'd be willing to bet every time that he would throw an interception or some turnover in theatrical fashion. It was bad. It was really bad. He was not clutch. He was bad at passing. He was a slug. He just was not good. Not good. Okay. Then we have Tavares Jackson. Not really that much to say here, really. He was bad. He was bad, but he wasn't entertainingly bad like Ponder was. It was almost like when you watch Survivor, a TV show, and there's this character that you just love to hate. That was Ponder. Tavares Jackson, he was bad, but I could tell that he was at least trying and had some potential. Ponder just had no potential, and it was just infuriating, which made it entertaining. But Tavares Jackson, he was just boring, And then Bridgewater. So, Bridgewater was decent. I thought he had a lot of potential. And then his injury, which was really unfortunate because I was a big fan of him. I thought he seemed like he could be a great leader. He was good at scrambling. He was decent at passing, but, he had plenty of time left in his career to develop those skills. He didn't panic like Ponder. He wasn't super clutch like Keenum or Favre, but he had potential. They could have made it, I don't know, necessarily to a Super Bowl, but I think they could have made it far if he wouldn't have gotten injured. This is more speculation. This is one of those things where it's hard to rank him because his career was cut short, and I get that he's still playing, but from the Vikings, he was a starter, and then his injury, then he moves around, But with him, I would say he's about average, but he had the potential to be more than average. But he's not good enough to be put at B tier. He's not as good as Cousins, but he had a decent amount of potential. So I don't think I would change anything about this list. I think it was a pretty solid list. But let me know what you all think, and I will see you all in the next one.